Hello, Bill
Sure.
Teising. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Miles. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, so Miles, I've been doing really well. Been busy. Yeah, after we talked a couple years ago, I've just kind of went on my own and started looking for new things to do with the bubble and new things to discover, and kind of did that on my own for a bit. Now I'm re-emerging, if you will, and I want to share the new things that I've discovered with you and your audience and other audiences, across these different platforms. So, okay, cool. And so what I've been doing recently, Miles, is and Susan will be joining us here on the show, hopefully within the minute. Uh, and I've been working with people in the SSP community with the bubble, and specifically with Susan. And so Susan Long, she's in the SSP programs, and she's going to be joining us today. And we've had some really amazing, noteworthy experiences since I shipped her a bubble last week. So she received one on the 30th of October. And just within the last few days, she's been having just amazing things happen. And so
Okay,
we
sorry,
wanted to
I'm going to
talk.
interrupt you on this. Matt Todd discovered that with the Orgone pyramid and
Mhm.
a Tesla coil sparking over to it, that the environment he was in filled. He could feel this energy coming through, and then two greys appeared, couldn't
Mhm.
stand it, and
Yeah.
left. So and also, could you explain to somebody who doesn't know what a bubble is, what it is? And I will shut up this time.
So, Miles, while we're waiting for Susan, can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know it's been a couple years since we talked, but you're on my mind a lot, and I'll tell you why. So I live
Bill,
in a
hold
town.
on. No, stop.
Okay.
There's no therapy for that. No cure. You
I
know,
know. Tell me
if you're
about it.
gonna hold on. Okay, we can now behave ourselves since we got a lady arriving
Oh,
and she's
okay. Behavior time. That's right. We gotta
you
be
behave
on our best.
yourself.
Susan's has joined the chat. Thank you.
Yeah.
Finally.
And hello, Susan.
Hi.
We've all got to behave ourselves now.
Yeah. Well, Susan, what I was telling Miles is, it's been a couple years since I last saw him, and he's been on my mind more than I would want him to be, but there's a reason why. So, Miles, I live in a town that has this. We have a street we have a street sign. It's called Miles Johnson Parkway. Now they misspelled it. They didn't put the T in there. But yeah, I see you every day on my way home from work.
God,
So,
I've just told Bill there's no cure for this. No bubble technology. Nothing can help him on this.
okay, you're cutting out there.
Me?
Yeah,
Am I too loud?
and it sounds like it's kind of being attenuated because it's too loud. But Susan,
Oh,
can you hear
okay.
okay?
Yeah, it just sounds like it's getting a little muffled, like going to
Okay, is
stat.
that better? One, two, three.
Yes, that's
Yes.
great.
I'll
Yep.
back that off a bit. Okay.
Okay, cool. So we could go ahead now.
Yeah.
Okay. So Miles, again, the reason why I'm here is and I've brought Susan Long with me today, and we've got some updates to share with you and your audience about some of the recent things we've been working on with Bubble Tech and some exciting stuff to share. So, Susan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for us, please?
Um, I'm a former police officer and detective, and I used to use my psychic mediumship abilities to find things and people. And I was also a precog, so I would have dreams about things, and then I would know where the guns and drugs were, and other weird things like I could look out of people's eyes when they were missing and know where they were at, and um, just I used all my abilities in that job, and now I've been a healer for the last 15 years. I was also in my lab. I've been a contactee. I was SSP. I actually found the altar of an altar that I was married to an SSP, and that didn't work out because he lied about his lifestyle and sexuality. But anyways, I've been on my healing journey the last 15 years, and I'm still working with women and children. That's why I went into policing, because I didn't think they were supported like they should be. And I'm a cranial sacral fascial therapist. I do hypnotic regressions, therapeutic massage, and I'm also a folk herbalist. And then I charge and I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I charge all my herbal products with my energy, so you feel a little better than just the herbs. And I'm what my great grandmom from Ireland called Fae, so you know what that is, Miles.
Yeah, the Fae.
Yeah. So, and I started glowing back in 2019. So that happens sometimes, like the she.
And also, Miles, you know, I sent you a link to this presentation, and the link to Susan's web shop, or you know, and her services. That's
Yes,
linked
that's
on
very
the.
important. Do give as much detail as possible for people, and thank you. And
Cool.
I'm very
Yeah.
impressed by this fancy software you're using. If you want to mention that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I use this. It's called Prezi, Prezi, and that in the Prezi video app, and that's the software that's used for this presentation. But Miles, I wanted to say, so I met Susan in January of this year, and you know, initially I met her, you know, for her Reiki treatments, and she's done a lot of excellent work on me. So we've been working together for about 10 months, and of recently, that's when we started to, you know, I sent Susan the bubble, and you know, have been actively working with her on, you know, how to use it and some of the things that you can do with it. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but let me just introduce myself quickly here. So my name is Bill Teising. I'm an electrical engineer. I like working with high voltage and computers, and yeah, so I've been on, you know, been here a couple times talking about the bubble, and I'm really excited to be back. Miles, thanks for having us.
Thank you. What sort of voltage there? It's more than a.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So here's some pictures of stuff that I've worked on during my career. The picture in the upper right, that's that can go up to 1.8 million volts, and that's a lightning impulse tower. And that's for in the industry I used to work in at ABB. Every one of the products that we made had to be tested because you know it's for utility industry and whatnot. So that was the test floor that was at that facility, and there's also the thing that I designed is called the tap changer, and it sits on the side of the transformer, and that's what adjusts the voltage. You still have to test it like you would a bushing, but yeah, so that's 1.8 million volts. And one day, Miles, I will be zapping a violet ray with 1.8 million volts. So something to look forward to. Maybe I can get on your show again when I do that.
Well, I have to say that Apache helicopters can see this stuff. They've got radar that can see this when somebody's operating. It's interesting that they're lking for this.
Mm.
I
Yeah, that's
was
a good. Go
I
ahead.
was
Sorry.
waiting for a knock at the door, and I haven't heard anything yet. Mine's been going for almost a week now. But oh, the other night when it was raining, because I moved the violet ray and the pyramid, the bubble from one side of my basement to the other, and the grounding was different. It was raining, and I went out and sat on my porch swing. I noticed that my neighbor that I don't like, they have some attachments that their front porch light was flickering, and I took a video of it and sent it to Bill, and he got a big kick out of it. And I said, that's exactly what it was doing when I used the violet ray wand on my face, because it's supposed to like tighten your skin too. And my lights in my bathroom were doing that. And I talked to the bubble and I said, can we please stop this? It's making me nervous. And it did, but it was funny when it did it to the guy across the street. What was that, last night or the night before?
Yeah, last night, yeah. Miles, I don't know if you use a violet ray or if you've experimented with it and if you've ever noticed that. But one thing I did do on Susan's setup was I used a rheostat essentially in series with the violet ray. You know, like one of those dimmers, like a wall switch dimmer.
Yeah,
And
it's a big
that
dimmer.
seemed
Lots of wires. Yeah,
seems to
coils.
make it make the violet ray stronger. Um, But yeah, so I know I mentioned this before. I'll just touch on it again. You know, what is a bubble? When we talk about a bubble, it's three pieces. It's your O piece, it's your violet ray, and your heat. And again, there's a picture of the three in combination there. That's the setup that I did send Susan. And Susan has had it since the 30th of October. And so I'd like for her to enlighten us on some of the things that she's experienced and discovered since, the 30th. And so it's been really exciting to see, her revelations and whatnot. So go ahead, Susan. Thanks.
That's where I set it up initially, because he told me it was going to arrive on Wednesday, and that was last week, and I was all excited when I saw the boxes come. There's like 3 or 4 boxes, and I had to take them all down the basement, and I'm an old Victorian and with partial dirt floor, so I thought, I'm going to put this on the dirt floor, and I'm also on a ley line here, and I was going to just try to blast the whole town with it, because they actually did a Netflix episode about, I'm not going to be here that much longer, about this town and drug addiction and stuff that was going on. And that's why I also found it amusing that the guy that I know has attachments, him and his wife, that their front porch lights started flickering the other night. But the day I put it in, I usually on Wednesday I do a chat with Stone, and there's a bunch of us that get together that are psychic mediums and contactees, and we talk about our experiences that we had some in the last week, and we're from all over the world. But anyways, I come upstairs and I get in a chat an hour late, and then I take my iPad down and I show them the bubble. Well, everybody starts feeling really blissful, because I was just kind of thinking, I'm just going to send them good energy. And it was like, ah. And so it felt like 532 hertz, like heart chakra frequency. And everybody just felt kind of high. Like when I've been contacted by the Lyrans, they always make me feel like that, where it feels like you're vibrating. And then I came back upstairs, and when I was coming up the stairs, my whole iPad glitched out in that purple ray there, and Stone got knocked out of her chair, and she was like, whoa, I don't know what that was. And she came back, and I said, well, I was just sending you all healing energy, and if anything's attached on you, it's negative, we're going to blast it off. And she's like, I definitely felt that. And her friend Flixet was in there. She's in Norway. And she said, Susan, can you Zoom me every morning so I can feel that bliss energy? She really enjoyed it. And Stone said she could see people standing around the bubble. I did too when I closed my eyes. Like there's some kind of ET people. They look really humanoid. She saw, and then the other lady said she saw a blue planet connected to it. And Jeff Kelson said, he's like, Susan, you just made a big vortex when you turn that on, and there's portals. And he's like, it's going down 12 blocks. It keeps going and going. I said, good, because we need to light up this town with some good energy. And
the name, how about her name?
Which one?
The bubbles name.
Oh, I almost forgot that, because Bill said, I didn't want to know anything. I was like, don't tell me anything, because I don't want to have any preconceived notions. I just want to see what's going to happen. And he said, you can ask her name. And I was up here, this is my massage and Reiki and office. But I said, what's your name? And she said, Bertha. And I kind of giggled. I was like Bertha Budd and the Budd Sisters. Remember that song? But and she was like, well, would you rather it be Chad? Yeah.
So yeah, we got Bertha here.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting. And then the next day, my friend Amaria Sweet, who is also SSP, and I remember her from Montauk and SSP, and she's one of my first SSP friends from like 5-6 years ago. And her son was having what did he have? Strep throat and
pneumonia, strep, yeah.
Yeah, and then when I connect to people, I'm like a medical medium, and I'll feel their pain and everything in my body. And when I was doing that, I could feel the pain in the back of his neck. I was like, oh, he was coughing so violently. pulled his neck muscles. And she's like, yeah. And then I felt it going down in me, down to the stomach. And I was like, okay, because it's pushing the energy down. I said, he's going to have to go to the bathroom because I warn people when I work on them doing energy work that they'll usually have a big movement the next day. But this happened immediately with the bubble because it just intensified the energy I sent. And I said, he's going to have to go to the bathroom. And she's like, oh, he's going, all right. And he just expelled whatever it was. And then she said he was fine. Was he better the next day or that day, Bill? Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah, it was the next day. I remember you called me and you were all excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know. I want to cover my face here just to give Susan the opportunity. But I wanted to say, thank you, Susan, for explaining, what you've discovered since you've had the bubble. What the intent here, Miles, is to train, work with Susan and be able to duplicate these noteworthy experiences consistently and
This
get
is
to the
very
bottom.
important, and it's great
Hmm.
hearing your laugh. It's wonderful, Susan, but this is important stuff, so keep going.
Yeah, so the goal is to be able to duplicate these experiences consistently with Susan, with the work that she's doing, I mean, it even goes down to like, the details, like, how are you projecting the energy? How are you collecting projecting it, collecting it, and sending it out, that kind of thing. We want to get as detailed as we can here. And then once we feel like we're at the point where Susan feels like she's at the point where she can duplicate these noteworthy experiences, then she'll go out and train others.
This is important because it's consciousness, it's your intention that's coupling with this energy.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yes.
it makes it more powerful, right? I mean, Susan, would you?
I
You
thought
have,
it did because he had a fever and everything and we knocked it out overnight. So
yeah. So Miles, we're kind of taking this the next step here with the bubble, and getting Susan trained to be able to do what she can do consistently, and then go out and train others, and just and build a network of people that use the bubble as one of their tools for their modalities of healing, or whatever they want to use it for as it pertains to health and wellness.
I was wondering if
So
Susan could explain more about what SSP means to her, and you've also mentioned Montauk. So do you want to explain that element of where you're coming from on that?
yeah, hold on a second. What the heck? Somebody turned on my TV. Somebody's having fun. Hold
Well, Bill,
um, yeah, so while we're waiting for Susan to come back, um, and actually, I'm glad she mentioned that because with as far as SSP is concerned, Miles, you know, I just recently have been researching. I mean, I know you've been talking about it for a while, but I'm playing catch up now. I was off in Bubble Land, if you will. And so as I've been like learning more about the SSP stuff, um, I learned more about how they're messed with and how they're targeted, if you will, if you want to just keep it general. So, um, I'm not surprised that electronics are having issues in Susan's house, because I think she has to deal with that on a consistent basis. And while we're waiting for Susan to come back,
well, you have a lot of links on screen.
yeah, I want to mention this other Amaria suite, because this is important too, as it relates to the work that Susan is doing. So Amaria was also in the SSP programs, and she was actually trained by Susan. She has memories of being trained by Susan. So Amaria and Susan were already working together prior to 3D, if you will, or they have experiences in the SSP together. So after Susan and I did a video, a live stream with Robert Khalil on his Typical Skeptic podcast last Sunday. And after that show, Amaria is like texting me and she's like offering me she's like, hey, would you like to do a treatment? I offer treatment services. And I was like, well, would you want to do it tomorrow? And she's like, how about we do it now? So I could tell there was some urgency in her voice. And I want to show the audience like what she removed from me when she did this scan. It's pretty amazing. So again, this person, Amaria, she has these abilities that you can see on the right side of your screen. And to an engineer like myself, I read this description of her abilities, and it's kind of goes over my head. I mean, there's a lot of big words in there.
Yeah, well, let's
Stuff
talk
that,
about the first one, psionics. That's a relatively new word.
well, yeah, look, I guess the point I was trying to make, Miles, is even with my lack of knowledge of what she was doing, she definitely did something amazing. And the things that she pulled off of my body, and we'll go back to the psionics part, but the four things that she removed, you can see on the right side of your screen here. And I'd like to just kind of go over what those were. So there was something like on my right cheekbone, and I had been having pain in my right cheekbone. I thought was attributed to like a toothache or whatever. Um, but there was this thing that she described as a squid that was stuck to it, and she had to rip that off, energetically. The way she did this, like she did, Robert Monroe is Miles. He did like hemp. Yeah.
Sorry, the Monroe
So
Institute. Yeah.
correct. Yes. So Amaria started doing this like humming to me. It sounded like when Robert Monroe gets you into like the hemi-sync mode, you kind of do this humming exercise. So she was doing that. Turns out she was doing like a hemi-sync exercise to get into her like astral healing mode, if you will. And she came over and she's saying, talking to me over the phone as she's doing this. And she's saying, I'm scanning your body now and I'm looking for, entities, attachments, implants. She found this thing on my cheek, so she ripped that off. The next thing she found was something in this area, chakra area. And it always felt like I had something that was kind of just like some tension there. She described it looking like a black cloud type of um, entity or thing or whatever. So she removed that. There was this spiral thing. You can see that metal spiral. And I'm just going to point to the general area of my body where that was removed. But what was interesting was that spiral thing was connected to a red cube. I don't know if that means anything to anybody, some red cube technology.
It's love bite tech that they use on you to control your sexuality, and Amaria is really good at removing that. I see like each one of us has different abilities, and I've had her move when I separated from, well, broke it off from the ex. I was telling her I'm having looping thoughts and my sacral chakra's off, and when I take things off myself, I don't actually see them with my eyes, or with my third eye, because I'll close my eyes and I do the humming too to hemi sync. But I've been doing that for years and didn't realize it was hemi sync. But I could see her pull this thing off of me, and it was like as wide as the bottom of this glass. And it came out of my sacral chakra. It was about this long and it was twisted. And you could see through it, and it was silver and red. And that was some love bite tech that they put on me so I would be attracted to someone I'm not normally attracted to, because I couldn't figure, yeah. And because I can see the black goo and other stuff, but she's really good with the red cube, black cube, and love bite tech. That's her thing.
Oh, Susan, glad you're back. I hope you got your TV fixed. But yeah, so, and then the last thing she pulled out of my foot, Miles, was it kind of looked like the letter L, but it had a hook on it too. So I bring this up because, you know, regardless of what you believe or not, this stuff exists. And I will also say that with each one of these things, I was experiencing, I would say, a very mild pain symptom. If on a scale of 10, I'd say either 1 or 2, but very mild, which I have not experienced since she did her treatment on me. But Well, the point I'm trying to make here is like whether or not you believe that these things exist. I mean, they are very much part of my, what I'm experiencing. Um, and so, talented people like Amaria and Susan, that's why I'm working with them on the bubble, because trying to augment, the gifts they already have, and then they can take what they've learned and train others. Um,
This is
and Su
very, very important, and I'm familiar with those sort of things that you've mentioned there. But this is what you're doing is very important.
It's a sex and misery program to just make you miserable so they can just feed off of your loose nonstop. We have to help each other because the ones of us that were in the programs, we have a lot of this crap. And then once you remove something, and then sometimes while you're asleep, they'll get mad and you'll get taken again and they install more things. So it's like continuous hygiene. It's like brushing your teeth, having to do this stuff, and you don't always have time to meditate every morning and blast stuff off of you. And sometimes you have to go to somebody else.
And Susan, Miles had a question about psionics, and that being, I guess, a relatively new term. Um, can you
Um,
explain what that is?
it was all psychic stuff because I remember in SSP well, that's going to go off on a whole other tangent. But the psionics were we would have to dress different ways, and they didn't want people to know who we were. But I remember I could hear people's thoughts. I remember being transported some place one time, and I had this blue smart suit on, and they're body conscious looking things, and look, I'm built like Maureen O'Hara, and one of these guys were sitting next to me on the bench while we were getting transported, and the one guy had his helmet on, but they had to have their helmets on to keep the psionics from getting in their heads. And I was a psionic, and I could hear this one guy, what he was thinking about, what he was going to do to me. And I took my helmet and I whacked him on the head. And the guy sitting next to him was like, she's a psionic. I told you she's going to kick your ass. She's going to hear you. And when they would come to catch me, they would have to have helmets on that would block my psionic abilities, because we could go the psionics could go in their head, kind of like melt the brain. We could.
Sorry, are you talking it like psychic sonic waves, psionics?
Yeah, but
like
you can
like acoustic.
mentally manipulate them with your mind. You could do things. You could make them
So
fight.
it's not
each other.
electronics. It's psionic.
It
It's
psionics.
psychic waves and having resonant acoustic, like singing or acoustic waves. Is that right?
I don't remember like seeing acoustic waves, but
Well, as you would do with your voice, you would sing and maybe crack a glass, for instance. Are you
no.
saying psionic is doing that with?
All I had to do was think of it. So yeah, all I had to do was think, I want them dead. I want to boil their brains, and that would happen. That's why if they wanted to catch me, if I went rogue, they would have to wear helmets, because I remember going rogue one time because I would try to escape the programs a lot.
So what is the helmet? It's just a metal helmet, or has it got coils or sort of energy things in them, or what?
They had black helmets, the people that I worked with that would capture me, and they were how Darth Vader's looks plastic. It looked like that, but it was something else. And they had weird like almost gray shaped eyes in them, pressed into them, and somehow they could see, but they had to have these helmets on or they couldn't catch us because we could kill them with our mind. Yeah. Like, you've heard of the scatterers, the remote viewing scatterers that will be different places. You try to remote view and they will scatter your
From
thoughts.
a general perspective, when you mention the term, if you could explain what it means so those who don't know have an idea of what you're talking about.
You use your mind to manipulate people. I could look out of people's eyes. I could still do that here. I did that with missing people, and I've done that with one of Amaria's sons that ran away, and she was upset and she couldn't figure out where he was. But since I've worked with these people in the programs, I can link with their children too somehow. And I said, wait a minute. And I just closed my eyes and like, I can see him, he's walking. And somehow on the battlefield, like if our body got injured and we didn't have a clone nearby, we could jump into another body. Yeah, that was weird too. This just goes, yeah.
In other words, you could jump in another body as a means of survival
Mm-hmm.
in the theater of war.
Yep. They taught us all kinds of crazy stuff that I remember.
So then when you got back to a place, you could then jump into your normal body.
I remember one time when I was a police officer here waking up, and I was in this battle and the shootout with this German guy, and it looked like some kind of boiler room, maybe in a ship somewhere. And he shot me in my thigh and in my shoulder. And I sat up, and my late husband woke me up because I was screaming. I could still feel the burning of the bullet in my thigh and in my shoulder. And he's like, oh, you're just having cop death dreams. You didn't have those before. And I think that was part of dealing with Dark Fleet. And because this guy looked German, he had blue eyes and and blonde hair. And that was weird. But I think that what might have happened there is maybe they didn't have a clone nearby. So I just came right back here to that timeline. Because a lot of these things are so confusing trying to figure out which timeline we were in. Because I remember stealing personnel files, and I think it was on a ship, and it was 4 other people. And I remember Amaria I said, you had an 8x10 in your personnel file, and you're wearing this blue native dress. And I was describing the beads she had sewn on it. And this was 4 or 5 years ago when we were talking in a group chat. And she said, hold on a minute. And she goes in her closet. And because we were trying to figure out which timeline they took us from, because I said this was the 90s, because I got my 90s haircut. And she goes in her closet. She says, this blue dress? And I said, yeah. She said, I just made this 3 years ago. I said, well, I remember stealing your personnel file. And we tried to use looking glass tech, and we put the personnel files up against the mirrors so it would do something so we could remember. And I remember that it was a big 8x10 of her in that dress. And yeah, I've bits of memories of at least 12 contracts at this time. And she was one of the people I was with that time. And Veronica was there, Bartolini, and so was, I don't even want to mention his name. But yeah, we stole these 4 personnel files. So, because we were trying to remember when they would put us back, we wanted to find each other in the here and now, which was we actually did that. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of very complicated stuff, and it's opening up a whole pile of questions. But continue.
Yeah, that opens up a whole nother can of worms. But since all of us were in these things and we can telepath, like I can tell if she's having a bad day if I'm tuning into her, if I don't have too much going on, and then I can hear if somebody else is in pain. But then I have to remember to cut all my cords all the time because I can't be hearing everybody else's pain and their problems because I got my own stuff to deal with in 3D. But when I first started talking to them, we started remembering a lot because I remember being in Montauk and I used to sing to Amaria, but I would sing in the songs and change the words because I would make this place where we would go out of body when they would torture us. And it was kind of like I was taking them to High Brazil or Tirnanog. I was taking them to a place that looked, I did live in Ireland during the Troubles, but I was taking them to a place like that. And we would just fly in like Peter Pan, but sometimes they would use tech. So you were bouncing against the ceiling and we couldn't get out, even though we pulled our soul out of our body. But
you mentioned High Brazil. Is that an existing outside the 3D here, or is it cloaked of some kind? It's off the coast of southwest of Ireland.
I think it actually exists because isn't it every? I forget how many years it's supposed to, but I could have put them in a time bubble because, you know, we're got pieces of memories, but I know I would take them to different places. And then there was a cave we would meet at, and I'd sing different, you know, like, let's go meet at this place. So even though they're torturing us, we won't feel it because we'll just take our soul out of our body and leave. You know, like when people get assaulted and they disassociate, that's what we would do with our souls, but we could actually astral travel somewhere if they didn't use tech to stop us. So, which they would do sometimes because they didn't want us to leave our bodies. They wanted us to experience.
What sort of tech?
I don't know. It was one where we couldn't leave the room. Like they would put some kind of force field around the place so you couldn't astral travel out of the room you were in. You could get out of body, but you couldn't get out of the room sometimes.
That's interesting, Susan, because in Robert Monroe's books, he describes once where he went to sleep in this Faraday cage, and they applied minus 50,000 volts to the cage, and when he tried to go out of his body, I mean, he was able to, but he couldn't leave the cage. I wonder if they're like putting high voltage or some type of electromagnetic field on that room.
I just got body chills. Yep, that's what they were doing. That's my toe.
That produces an extreme field stress, which I would say that if you did try to leave, you'd curve into something else, or you couldn't barely get out. That's my analysis.
Yeah, I just remember sometimes we couldn't get out because we would try to leave, because I would try to lead the kids out. I'd start singing, but I would change the words because they were always listening to us, and they wouldn't listen to me all the time when I was singing. So they didn't know what I was doing because I had to do it in a way that our handlers didn't know I was trying to help the other kids and myself.
That's a lot of double, triple think.
There's a will, there's a way.
Yes, affirmative. Okay, Bill.
Yeah, so, you know, the other thing I wanted to mention too while we're talking about this, it made me think about when Penny was describing these metallic, she said it looked like a thermos. Penny, you know, she was just on your show, Miles, and Penny Bradley, and talking about these like thermoses that they could store souls in, you know, that they had like an active electric or magnetic field on. So very interesting stuff. So yeah, I mean,
well,
Miles,
I've heard of the term box, but that brings up a term called bottled.
Yeah, yeah. Penny referred to it as a bottle, look like a kind of like a thermos, you know, that you put coffee in, about that size. So yeah, Miles, really, I mean, that's our update. There's just a couple other things I wanted to just mention to your audience. I know you and I briefly discussed this yesterday, but
Windows, none of these
11.
software things are in our interests.
Pardon?
None of these things are in our interests.
I just wanted to mention it because, like, if for anyone who listens to your show and they have Windows 11, you know, it's going to be taking screenshots every 5 seconds of your desktop and doing character recognition in the pictures, taking pictures of what you're looking at. This is on your private computer, and then Microsoft, their AI will come in and it will use that information. So you're essentially training the Microsoft AI model with your private data. And so just want to let people know that, you know, I mean, on my work laptop, yeah, I'm used to them doing this, but not on my home computer. So that's going on. There is a way to disable it. You can do some research and figure it out, but I would suggest that you do disable it, or else, you know, all of your private information is not as private as you think.
With all the Montauk stuff and all the AI stuff, what is the relationship with the SSP and all this going out of body and timelines with AI? Because it's in so many things. The machine has consciousness.
Susan, do you have an opinion on that?
With the timeline shifts, I know I was purposely jumping timelines even before I came out here to get to my highest one. And that's something else I want to work with a bubble on, because that's my next thing is I'm going to do a 7-day straight meditation manifestation. But shoot, what was the question again? I think that's spaced out.
I'm wondering. I mean, I noticed a long time ago that the computers were behaving as if you had a 13th terminal in a 12 terminal network. In other words, the other terminals didn't know there was a 13th terminal, and that I'm using that as an illustration that you would have another access into the system that nobody else knew was there.
You're saying that's always existed?
Because autistic, one of the things about the injection is that autistic children are being used, and there's now big business in this, to bring autistic children into interface with computers, and that is the road to cyborg.
I'm really against transhumanism. I want to stay a human being as long as possible.
Well, that's the point. The newborn children are being made when they're autistic children. The level of autism in the newborn is going to hit 50% soon, and they will go straight to the cyborg factories, for want of a better term. Have you heard of anything like that?
No, but you're scaring me because I got another grandchild coming soon. But I already know that my one granddaughter, I can tell she's dragon and Lyran bloodline like me because I saw her eyes shift and I shift and she shifts, but I haven't seen the other ones do that. So I know we're hybrids, and I guess she's a hybrid of me because I know they wanted me because I could remote view with bilocation. And that's what people in my bloodline could do. And I actually got called out. What was that? 2017. I went to a platform mediumship training at this place in North New Jersey, and my guides were all contacted with me, and I was dialed in that morning for that class. And I said, "Oh, I want to." I think I went second or third. And usually I wait till the end till I volunteer. And I got up on stage. And I started talking. I'm like, "Oh, I'm connected with this fisherman. He's in Ireland. He's on the West Coast." And I said, "Oh, I know where he is. He's at the Ring of Kerry. That's where his boat is, because I'm on the road outside of Tralee. I've been on this road. I've taken pictures on this road." And what I didn't realize was I was going like this. And when I went like that, I could hear the ship's bells came closer. His face came closer. And I was standing there, out of time, but I was also standing on this stage in North New Jersey. And what I didn't know was my instructor, who's a psychic medium, was former naval intelligence, and he saw me doing this, and he got up on the stage and he said, stop your remote viewing, because I'm like, he's joking with me, asking, what do I think's better bait, squid or whatever he was cutting up, and I could smell the fish, and we were talking. And I said he cut up his bait, went on his boat, and he got lost. He went northwest and got lost out going towards high Brazil. And they said, "Oh yeah," but I kept talking, but he came up on stage and tried to stop me because he says, "You're remote viewing." And I said, "This is how I see. This is how I've always seen since I was a little kid. I go there, like part of my, I don't know how we do that, but you're in two places at the same time." So I could see where I was standing on the dock. I could see where I was standing on that road outside of Tralee. And I could smell everything. But as soon as the guy walked up on the stage, the screen popped up beside him, actually, and I could see the Ring of Kerry. It was like a map on this clear screen, which was really weird because nobody could see it but me.
Well, I think that's a lot for another time, Bill. Thank you. Okay,
So
let's let you tell us all about what you want to say right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, that's our update, Miles. Essentially, I just wanted to bring to your attention that we're getting more healers involved, trying to duplicate these noteworthy experiences and then train others. And I just did want to briefly say a couple thank yous. I don't think I've ever formally thanked Mike Emery, but Mike, thank you for all the hard work. I mean, obviously you've done great work with the bubble and work with Miles, and you guys did that workshop together. So I just wanted to say thank you to Mike for everything that he's done. And thank you, Miles, for having us on. And also wanted to mention, Daryl and Cyrus, their pictures are on the left side of your screen here. They've been, interacting and helping a lot with the Bubble Tech group. And I've been getting back on there recently and getting more involved. So I just want to acknowledge their work for what they've done in the Bubble Tech group as well. And it's really good to see you, Miles. I mean, we don't really see too many YouTube videos, but I did sign up for your channel, Basis TV. So
yeah, that's very good. Very good, Bill. Thank you very much for signing up to basistv.com.
Yes,
and you get
absolutely.
the access on basistv.org.
That's correct.
And we've got a great webmaster there. He's working like hell. And thank you very much. Thank you there.
Yeah, and Susan, her email address and Amaria's email address are here on the contact. I mean, their URLs are also in the presentation. And Miles, I've sent you a link on Skype to the Prezi presentation, and people can click on it and zoom into the pictures and whatnot, and click on the links. So make it a little more dynamic for them to interact with the presentation if they want to do so.
Well,
So,
thanks,
yeah.
Bill. This is a heck of a serious 45 minutes or so, and we've kept it light. We had a happy time, a lot of really detailed stuff, and thank you very much. And on this day of the 5th of November, there's fireworks going on outside here in England. May we bring good times to others and everyone in the future.
Agree with that. Thanks. And we'll be back, Miles, if you wouldn't mind having us back. when we have more
Absolutely,
updates, that'd be
absolutely.
great.
This is wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, Miles.
Really
Thank
good
you,
to see
Miles.
you.
Good to see you.
Well, I'm recording this independently. One of my little things I do just to sort of say I'm shutting things down is I'm going to switch off these things remotely and say thank you very much and good night.